Mario 64 is one of my favorite Mario games, and so far I haven't really done a video centered around it before. With Super Mario 3D All-Stars coming to the Switch, I finally have a way to film footage for this game, so I decided to finally get around to making a video on it. Anyways, one of my favorite types of stars in Mario 64 are the red coin stars. If you didn't know, in order to collect these, Mario has to find 8 red coins spread across the level, which will then spawn the star into a different spot which Mario can then travel to and collect. Each main level of Mario 64 has one of these stars, along with there being red coin stars at each of the Bowser and Cap Switch levels. Adding on the 2 additional red coin stars from the Secret Aquarium and Wing Mario Over the Rainbow, we have a total of 23 red coin stars in Mario 64. Man, why'd it have to be such a gross number like 23? It couldn't have been like 24 or something? Anyways, since 23 of the game's 120 stars are these red coin ones, they're obviously a pretty big part of the game. Due to them being such a large chunk, I thought it would be fun to try and rank them all today from worst to best. Now, on what grounds will I be ranking these by exactly? Well, I've come up with 3 main factors here. First off, it's difficulty. The star can't be too easy, as then it would be not rewarding to collect. However, it also can't be too hard to the point that it's frustrating, though there really aren't many examples of it being too hard here on the list. The second factor is obviously the star has to be fun to collect, which will definitely be the most opinionated factor here, but hey, this is an opinionated list, so it's okay to disagree. The final factor here is how well does the star encourage exploration of the level. Having them all clumped together when they could easily be separated is pretty lame in my opinion. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, and since only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to the channel, it would be very much appreciated if you did subscribe for more videos like this. But with that out of the way, let's jump right into my ranking of all 23 red coin stars in Super Mario 64. Okay, so the easiest placement on this entire list was this star for last place. The star in question is Wing Mario Over the Rainbow. If you've played Mario 64, you would understand why this is the worst red coin star, and maybe even the worst star in the game. Let's quickly go over this and why I think it actually belongs in last place though. It's one of the 2 mini levels designed just to have a red coin star, so my thoughts on this level as a whole must be pretty negative, right? Well, actually, I don't really dislike the stage itself. I find the wing cap pretty fun to use, even if it may be a bit difficult at times. The stage's whole concept is that Mario has to fly between several different clouds and cannon platforms to get the 8 red coins. Doing this is actually pretty fun, just due to being able to explore with the wing cap. The cannons also make this star infinitely more fun to collect as they give you a ton of speed for the wing cap. Well, it seems like I've been pretty positive so far, so why is this so low on the list? Well, when you die in Mario 64, you're normally just kicked out of the level and are able to jump right back into it. Here though, if you fall off even a single cloud into the void, you don't just die. You get sent back all the way to the outside of the castle. Did I mention that this level is located at the very top of it? Yeah, that means if you even make a small mistake, because the clouds are fairly easy to fall off of, you have to walk all the way back up to the top floor of the castle to try again. Sure, it doesn't take a life away, but this is in all honesty way worse. It's so extremely tedious to walk all the way back up to the star to try again. Even though I find the level itself and the red coin placement not too bad, it doesn't really matter since the punishment for dying is just way too annoying and tedious. Sure, the star could be worse by having a more annoying level itself, but what it has good unfortunately can't save it from its huge death flaw, giving it last place at number 23. Now that last one was a special case. All the other ones on this list are where they are for the actual missions themselves. That means the mission that I technically find the worst is pole jumping for red coins in Dire Dire Docks. Now if you know me, you know that when I play games I like to play them fast. That's one main reason I love Odyssey so much. There are so many different techniques you can use to do things very fast, to the point where there's almost always a faster way to do moons. This star in Mario 64 though, pretty much goes against all of that fast movement philosophy that I like to follow. Dire Dire Docks is already one of my least favorite stages due to it being a water level and being separated into 2 parts which can take forever to travel through. Despite that though, the red coins aren't actually in the water and are instead above it. The only swimming you need to do is swimming from the start to the second section, which by itself is pretty annoying. But the main annoying thing with the star are the poles that the red coins are found on. Basically, you have to ride on and wait on several different poles to be able to jump between them to collect the coins. This is so extremely tedious as it takes forever to get from one pole to another. If you ever fall off of one, then you have to swim all the way back to that switch that allows you to get onto the platforms with the poles. Hopefully you didn't fall off of one that's several poles deep, by the way, as then you'd have to go onto every single pole on the way there to get back. The star also doesn't really allow Mario to use any of his main moves. I like how Mario controls in this game quite a bit, so him being stuck to just pole jumps for the most part brings this down quite a bit. So while this may not have the extremely tedious journey back to the stage like Wing Mario Over the Rainbow, the mission itself is certainly bad enough to give it 22nd on the list. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention that Dire Docks also has a fun spot where if you go into it, you're sent back to the outside of the castle. But it's much harder to go into that, and Dire Docks is much closer to the outside of the castle, so it's not as big of a problem here. Okay, now those are the only two red coin stars that I'll say I actually hate. These next couple stars I only really dislike slightly. First, let's take a look at the Secret Aquarium. This stage is the other one designed to be exclusively a red coin stage. Well, saying designed may be giving them too much credit because the stage is basically the equivalent of just using the fill command in Minecraft a total of 2 times. This is one of, if not the easiest red coin star on the list, though I do think that there's another that's a bit easier which we'll get to later. Basically, all you have to do is swim around and collect the 8 red coins, which are all in super obvious positions. Not like there's anywhere they could really hide them though. There's pretty much no risk of running out of breath here due to each red coin being next to several other coins, so the only real challenge of this star is finding the aquarium itself, which isn't honestly that hard as it's just right here in the Jolly Roger Bay room. This star is just so incredibly easy and boring to complete. It being a water level definitely does not do this stage any favors as well. So for being really easy and boring, but not being frustrating like the previous two, this gets number 21 on this list. Just like that, we've already ranked the 2 stages made purely to be red coin levels. Kinda sad that they're both so lame. Back onto an actual main level, we have Elevate for red coins and Hazy Maze Cave. The reason this is lower on the list is because you need to ride an elevator and a lift to collect most of the red coins here. Like the pulls in Dire Docks, this can be quite tedious, however I find this one to be much less so for multiple reasons. 1, it takes almost no time at all to get to this room with the red coins from the start of the level. 2, the amount of time you have to spend on the elevators is significantly lower than the time on the poles. And the third one is that this one is on land, which gives you access to Mario's full moveset. This lets you get a few coins without needing the lifts, and I do believe it's actually possible to get them all without the elevator, but it is pretty hard. So in the end, this red coin mission isn't too terrible. However, I think this could have been a little bit more interesting if they actually spread out the coins throughout the level. Now this could have ended up just being annoying, but I think if done right, it would have been very cool to have to explore multiple rooms in the cave in order to find all the coins. This seems pretty much perfect for a spread out red coin mission, so it's kinda sad that these are all in one room. So for being a bit slow moving, though not terrible, and also having all the red coins grouped into one place, this gets 20th on the list. The next one here had me so extremely conflicted. In all reality, this should really be closer to the bottom, however I just couldn't help myself. I just really like 8 coin puzzle with 15 pieces in Lethal Lava Land. I can't explain why I like it either, as it goes against pretty much everything I said for what makes a good red coin star. This is in my opinion the easiest one on the list, yes somehow even easier than the aquarium one. All of the 8 red coins are located in the exact same area on top of this random sliding puzzle, which makes no sense whatsoever to be here. I don't know why, but this is just so fun to collect though. Maybe it's because it's satisfying to hear the red coins sound so quickly after each other or something, I don't know. In reality, it is kinda sad that these red coins here aren't spread out across the level. Later on there's a red coin mission about using a shell, but I feel like that would have worked so perfectly here in Lethal Lava Land. The level is all nice and spread out, and it would be fun to ride around with the shell to find and collect the red coins. But oh well, they decided to put them all in this weird sliding puzzle that feels so out of place, but it's not so bad. Plus, it has by far the funniest method of collecting it in the 120 star TAS. If you don't know what a TAS is, it's basically a speedrun, but a tool is used so that the creator can decide what input Mario pushes every single frame. This allows us to see what the game would look like if it were played perfectly, even if it wouldn't be humanly possible. But anyways, here's what the Lethal Lava Land's red coin star looks like in the TAS. So yeah, I just found that very entertaining, so that moved this up to number 19, even if it really should be lower. I have very little to say for Wiggler's red coins on Tiny Huge Island. The difficulty is decent, it's fairly easy, though it definitely can be a slight bit difficult. The main thing I don't like about this though is the fact that once again all the red coins are concentrated in one area. Granted, it's not nearly as bad as Lethal Lava Land as you do have some actual platforming between the jumps, but it's still overall a pretty unimpressive star. I think it would have been really neat if maybe there were 4 coins in the small version of the stage and in the same spots on the large version of the stage there are the other 4. Now I could see this possibly causing issues with spawning the star in, however they could maybe allow the star to spawn in on both versions of the stage. This could have been a really neat way to tie both of the versions of the stage together, but instead you have to go into this cave section that has pretty much nothing to do with the Tiny Huge gimmick. Still though, it isn't terrible, but it's just a bit disappointing, giving it 18th. We've run into our first Bowser stage of the list, and ironically, it's the final Bowser level in the game, Bowser in the Sky. For the most part, this mission is actually pretty solid. Now these linear levels in my opinion have to take a different approach to their red coins. I think in these levels they should be more about collecting them rather than trying to find them, since linear levels are laid out in more of a straight path. It would be very annoying to get to the end only to realize that you only got 7 out of the 8 red coins. In the open levels, it makes more sense to be about exploration, as then you don't really need to backtrack much if you miss one. This is where I think Bowser in the Sky kind of fails. 6 of the 8 red coins are placed pretty well in my opinion. It's obvious where they are and can sometimes actually be difficult to nab. 2 of them, however, are in such obscure places that new players will almost always have to backtrack to find them. The first is this one. Mario 64's camera is not very good, as I'm sure most of you know, so actually seeing a red coin on a tiny ledge like this can be extremely difficult, thus making the coin pretty easy to miss. The other one, though, is actually the final red coin of the stage. It's hidden under the bridge, somewhere where the players aren't very likely to look. Now some of you may be thinking, how does this make you backtrack if this is the last coin? Well, Mario 64 has no indicator of which red coin a player is missing, so as far as they know, they could be missing one from the very start of the stage. So in the end, I think these 2 red coins bring down the whole star. To me, they just go against how I think the red coins on these linear levels should work. Once you know where they are though, the red coin mission is pretty solid, so that definitely saved it from being lower on the list. Had those 2 coins just been made a bit more obvious, this likely would have been much higher here, but for now it's going to have to settle with 17th place. Alright, so as it turns out, I actually ended up placing all 3 of the cap switch stars next to each other on the list. Starting off with the worst of the 3, we have the one for my favorite cap, the wing cap. The red coins here are set up in a very simple way. There are 4 rings, each with 2 red coins, separated into each side of the central pillar, with each ring having a different elevation. This is a pretty solid tutorial for using the wing cap in my opinion. It gives the player a clear sense of where to go and is also an obvious reward for taking that path. There is only one problem I have with this stage, and that's if you miss the red coins at the top, it's extremely difficult to go back up there and get them. In fact, I'm not even sure if it's possible to get that high up once you mess up. Something that saves this stage though from that issue is that if you fall off, you don't lose a life, so it's pretty easy to just retry. Other than that though, it's just a solid tutorial for the wing cap with a few annoyances with the top coins, giving this 16th. I had a real hard time deciding between the next 2, but I chose to put the Vanish Cap star next for a few reasons. I do like this a bit better than the wing cap star because while I do like how the wing cap controls, Mario will always feel better to me on the ground. Now one reason I don't think this is the best cap star is that it barely uses the Vanish Cap at all. I personally think the Vanish Cap is the lamest by far, and that's pretty much because it has almost no interesting abilities. It really only lets you go through thin walls, and these ones are wet dry world for some reason. I never understood that. So there's really not a lot to base a whole mini level around for it. They only use the Vanish Cap's unique abilities at the very end. Every single red coin can be collected without the Vanish Cap. In fact, if you jump off the switch in the right way, you won't even need the Vanish Cap to get through the fence. Maybe they could have based this level around the Vanish Cap's timer, so you have to try to get through obstacles quick enough and collect the red coins on the way in order to get the star. As it is right now, it's just a bunch of random platforms that have nothing to do with it. Speaking of which, jumping on these platforms in particular was also something I was never really a fan of, so that was the final nail in the coffin for me, which made me decide to put this at number 15 on the list. The final cap star is for the Metal Cap. I always enjoyed this level a lot, and I think it does a solid job of showing off the Metal Cap's abilities to sink in water. It was always fun to try and collect as many of the red coins as I could before the cap ran out. The only downside of this one though is that the Metal Cap level is very small, so it's not really that difficult at all. I should also probably mention that if you fall down this level's waterfall, then you would fall down outside of the castle, which as I talked about isn't really a good thing. In that case, you would have to play through Hazy Maze Cave again to get back to the Metal Cap Switch level. However, I don't really think this is much of a problem since you really have to try your best to fall down the waterfall. I mean, when I went to get footage for this, I actually kind of found it hard to just fall off the thing at all because I kept getting caught, so this is pretty much a complete non-issue. So for being just a solid showcase of the Metal Cap, this star will take 14th place on the list. Scary Shroom's red coins on Tall Tall Mountain is a pretty special case. Normally, the red coins are either spread out across the entire level like the ones higher on the list, or they're all put close together like in Lethal Lava Land or in Tiny Huge Island. Here though, they kind of mix the two approaches so the red coins are grouped together in sets of 4. This middle approach isn't terrible, though I still prefer them to be all spread out. Regardless, 4 of the red coins are on the mushrooms at the start, which is where the star gets its name from, and the other 4 are located on the wall with the Monty Moles. The mushrooms are decently difficult to jump between, so I think that half of the star is pretty good. The wall can be annoying to navigate sometimes as it's a bit cramped, however once you know where you're going it can also be fun. I do think that this sort of group approach was best for this stage as it may be kind of annoying to have to scale up and down the mountain for the red coins. The only other issue I have with this stage is that since the star spawns on a mushroom a bit far away off the land, it can be difficult to get Mario to turn the camera there, which could lead to an unfair death. In the end though, this is just a fairly solid one, giving it 13th. Speaking of the more spread out red coins, we finally have our first real star with the red coins spread out throughout the level, not including the linear ones of course. The level I think did the spread out approach the worst was Jolly Roger Bay with the red coins on the ship afloat. This level has most of the red coins found on the ocean floor inside of clams, 1 on this pillar and 3 on the ship. I don't like how 3 of them are found on the ship, however there really aren't many other good places to put them, so I'm not too upset by that. Maybe one of them could have been inside the cave, but overall I think the coin placement isn't too bad. The main thing holding the star back though, I'm sure you all guessed, is the fact it's a water level. Like I've said before, Mario's swimming controls just aren't really that fun to use. The controls are pretty much the sole reason I have to bring this star down to number 12. TikTok clock stop time for red coins is my next choice here. I've always had pretty mixed feelings about this level as a whole. For one, I think the mechanic of slowing down and speeding up time based on when you enter the stage is pretty cool, but the stage can be kind of wonky to play through sometimes. The stage seems to have the most jank with stuff like invisible walls, which means a lot of the time when you die it feels like it's the game's fault. Still though, this theme is really cool and it did inspire one of my favorite Mario Kart tracks, so I can't complain too much. This is another red coin mission with all of them grouped together, this time along a wall with a ton of spinning platforms. As the name suggests, you're supposed to stop time so you're able to parkour across them for coins. That's where my first problem arises though. I'm pretty sure there's no indication that entering the stage at a certain time stops the clock. When I first stopped time in this level years ago, it was by complete accident and I had thought it was a glitch of some kind, so maybe making it more clear would be better. As for once you actually stop time though, the platforms can be kind of tedious to jump across as their hitboxes to me always felt kinda strange. It's still a decently fun time to collect this star, but just sometimes it feels like the game cheats you, so that's why I can't put it any higher than number 11 on the list. To kick off the top 10, we have another Bowser level. Of the two left, I think the one in Fire Sea is worse, so let's go over it. This is another linear level, of course, so the red coins are all pretty obvious and clear to see. There really are only 2 I have issues with. First off is this one under the elevator. It's pretty obvious that it's there if you use your eyes, but it can still be annoying to have to go back down to get it and then jump all the way back up to the cage again to then ride the elevator. The other coin I really don't like is this one on the moving platform. I do not like this platform at all in general, since you have to wait for it to go all the way back up to the top until you're able to move on with the level. There's no obstacles on it either, so it's purely there just to slow you down, which in my opinion is really lame. Similarly, you have to wait until this platform gets to its near highest point until you're able to actually collect this red coin. The coin on this platform single-handedly puts it lower on the list than it probably could have been, since it's just such a drag to wait for this platform to finish. Other than that though, this is still a very solid red coin mission, so I think it belongs at number 10 on the list. Seek the 8 red coins on Big Boo's Haunt is solid enough as is, but I think it could have honestly been way better than it is in the final game. Some of the red coins are placed in good places, however for whatever reason they decided to put 2 coins in this coffin room and 2 coins on these bookshelves. There's a whole mansion here with several rooms that don't contain a single red coin, but for whatever reason they decided to have multiple red coins in the same room. They don't even have a red coin on the outside in the basement or in the attic. This would have been way better in my opinion if they utilized much more of the mansion than they ended up doing here in the final game. If I were to move them, I would have put one on the roof of the outside shed so Mario has to either do some tricky jumps or use the Tox box to get up there, and I'd put the other in the corner of the attic room. That way there are many other places that would need to be explored. Now of course this star is quite high up here on the list, so there still are great things about it. I do like the idea of the coffins a lot, and I think they worked great as hiding places. There's also of course the absolutely iconic red coin behind the piano that comes to life when Mario comes by. It's still pretty fun to go around the mansion, just it would have been nicer if we had to run around more of it, so this will take number 9, though it could have definitely been a lot better. Remember earlier when we were talking about Lethal Lava Land, I said that there was a different red coin star that used the shell? Well, shell shredding for 8 red coins on Snowman's Land was what I was talking about. Using the Koopa shell is pretty fun, and I think this mission is designed fairly well to work with it. I do wish that the red coins were a bit more spread out though. There's a line of 3 of them leaving the spot where you get the shell in the first place, which is honestly a bit lame. There are a few spots that don't really have any coins in the level, so it would have been nice if they were maybe moved there. Other than that though, I really don't have much to say on this other than it takes number 8. This choice here, I'm really curious to hear what people have to say because I'm really not sure what the general opinion is on the star. Personally though, I think coins amassed in a maze on Rainbow Ride is the best example of the red coins grouped together trope. This is the last example of this type of red coin star on the list, as all the other ones have their red coins spread out. So why did I decide then to put Rainbow Ride so high up even though I like the spread out coins more? Well, let's take a look at Rainbow Ride. This is easily the worst non-water level in the entire game, and even including the water levels, it's not very good in comparison. As I've said, I absolutely hate when you have to wait in games, and Rainbow Ride is the worst example of this. You basically have to spend most of the time in this level riding these carpets, which take forever to get to their destination. Not only that, but it's also extremely boring and pretty non-challenging. That's why I love that all the red coins are grouped into one spot on the stage. Can you imagine how horrible it would have been if you had to ride all of or even just some of the carpets to get the red coins? It would have been insufferable. Just for that alone, it gets a huge boost. What makes it extra nice is that no carpets are required to get there at all, since you could easily long jump from the start to this pole to skip the first carpet, and then the red coins are just a small run away. I also just really like how the maze is set up that the red coins are actually in. It's pretty fun to use all of Mario's different types of jumps to try to grab the red coins in the best ways possible. I find myself going back to the star every so often to see what route I can come up with to get the star more efficiently. So even though this may be a red coin star where it's all grouped together, it's on a level where this is definitely the best route to take, and the maze the coins are actually in is fun to navigate through, giving this number 7 on the list. The final Bowser and mini level on the list is Bowser in the Dark World. I think this one does the linear red coin level pretty much perfectly. Every single red coin is in a pretty obvious location, and some even have areas dedicated to them. Collecting them feels pretty rewarding, and they're laid out in a way that doing them fast is also very fun as well. I especially like the two at the start where you have to hit the switch, as it feels rewarding to do those two in particular fast. I also always liked Dark World more than Fire Sea or Bowser in the Sky, as there are way less moving parts to slow you down here, and it feels like you can complete this level as fast as you're able to move Mario. So for being the best example of the linear red coin design, this star will take number 6. That leaves us with just 5 more levels left to rank. All 5 of these, for the most part, use the spread across the whole level philosophy, so it's just down to which of these I think did it best. Starting off with the top 5, we have Shifting Sandland. This level has a sort of structure to its placements. 4 of the red coins are in the sky, which pretty much require the wing cap to collect, and the other 4 are in the corners of the map. In my opinion, it's very fun to run around the whole level to collect these coins. There's also a cannon which makes the red coins in the sky a lot more fun to collect as well. Some of you may think it's kinda sad that none were included inside of the pyramid, however I disagree. I think having them all on the outside makes it flow a lot better, and it makes more sense as well. The only red coin I might move to being somewhere else on the pyramid is the one at the very start, where you have to run a long way there and then run back. This is just a slight bit lame, so moving this coin to maybe somewhere on the pyramid I think would have been better. Every other coin placement though I think works pretty well, so I'm definitely comfortable putting this at number 5 on the list. Now we see one of Mario 64's most iconic stages, Whomp's Fortress with red coins on the floating isle. I love this stage a lot, and it's always fun to run around in, and this is no different when looking for the red coins. Now Whomp's Fortress is a bit smaller than many of the other stages, which means that even though the red coins are spread out, they still feel kinda close together. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, since it's nice to have access to pretty much the entire stage at once, but it means the red coin star is much more on the easy side. I think they could have gone with moving a few as well, as 4 of the red coins are really close together near Blast Away the Wall, so maybe moving one of those where the star spawns and another near the blue coin switch would have been nice. Either way though, this is a quick and simple one, which I definitely like a good amount, which places it at 4th. Onto a bigger stage now with Cool Mountain's Frosty Slide for 8 red coins. Now we're at the point in the list where each of the stars are pretty much perfectly done. Cool Mountain's red coins are spread throughout the entire stage, with one at the summit, a few in the middle of the mountain, and a few more at the bottom. I really like how they have you explore pretty much the entire stage for these coins. Sure, there aren't any on the slider where Wall Case for Work is, however, like in Shifting Sandland, I like this as it gives the stage a nicer flow. Now some of you may think that needing to go up and down the mountain would get annoying while looking for these coins, however that's where this warp point comes in. This makes the star so much less tedious than it might have been without it, as it's an instant path from the bottom to the top, so even if you miss a coin, there's almost no issue in backtracking. With it being slippery, there's also a decent chance of falling if you aren't careful, adding in some nice difficulty. It was really hard to put this one lower than the 2 I have above it, but both of them I feel have a slight advantage which just puts them over this star. So for being a near perfect red coin star, but just being slightly worse than the competition, this will take 3rd place on the list. Now this one I could definitely see being a controversial choice, but I always loved Go to Town for red coins in Wet Dry World. The stage had always been one of my favorites as it's just so weird. Its main gimmick is rising and lowering water levels, which means, while it technically can be considered a water level, for the most part you can play it with no water and just move around with Mario. What makes this stage even weirder is its second section being the Drowned Town. This was always one of the most mysterious parts of not only Wet Dry World, but of the whole game. It's eerie and creative, which is why I just love this stage and love the town even more, which just so happens to be the setting for the red coin star. Now I'm not sure if you would consider this a clumped red coin star or a spread out one, but to me it doesn't really matter much. The red coins are all in boxes, which you can't destroy in water, so that means you have to lower the water level, which is definitely something I appreciate. Most of the red coins are on top of the buildings, which means you have to use pretty much all of Mario's different types of jumps and wall jumps. This makes it one of the hardest stars in the game, but in all honesty, I really like that about it. While sometimes the jumps don't work perfectly, this is the closest level I get to parkouring around like I can in Odyssey. Just trying to find new ways to climb up the buildings is fun in itself. Even though I do find it entertaining, however, there are still a few issues with the star that bring it down from being number 1. The camera here can be really bad. Sure, it's bad during the entire game, but when you have to make difficult jumps along with the town's cramped environment, it can be extra annoying. Additionally, there are 2 coins on the same wall and a third in a super easy to reach spot, so in reality, you really only have to do difficult jumps for maybe around half of them. Even with all these problems though, I find jumping and wall jumping around way too fun to bring this down all too much. Along with my love for the drowned town, this all combines to give this star runner-up at 2nd place here on the list. But as for what I find to be Mario 64's best red coin star, well, I'm sure it's pretty easy to guess by now. It's find the 8 red coins on Bob-omb Battlefield. If you've been paying attention to the rest of the list, then I think my reasons for why this is number 1 should be pretty obvious. For one, I think this does the absolute best job of spreading out its coins. There's one in pretty much every section of the level, on top of the chain chomp, on the mountain, in the moat, in the field, and heck, even on the floating island. Sure, there may be 2 grouped together where the star spawns, however I don't think that's an issue at all. For one, since Bob-omb Battlefield is the first level of the game, these 2 red coins are placed here to not only show that the star is connected to them, but that there are multiple red coins in each stage. Another reason I don't find this to be an issue at all is everywhere else in the level has a red coin there already. It's nice to get to see what a majority of the stage has while collecting the star, and using the wing cap on top of that is also very fun as well. There are just no problems with the star in my opinion, so even though it's number 1, I don't really have much more to add here. It excels at pretty much all the categories I stated at the start. It's great for exploring the level, it's fun to move and fly around with Mario, and the difficulty I think is at a good spot for it. So for being pretty much the perfect red coin star, Bob-omb Battlefield is going to take number 1 on the list. Kinda funny how the red coin star with the most basic name took the top spot, huh? But anyways, that's it for this really long video. What's your favorite red coin mission? Let me know in the comments. I want to try and talk about more Mario games in general, since I generally kind of stick with the same few, so if you have any ideas for any more that I don't talk about as much, please let me know in the comments. I'd prefer ideas that haven't really been done before, because I find those to be much more interesting. Anyway, if you enjoyed, please make sure to leave a like and maybe even subscribe for more on Mario and anything else Nintendo Switch. I'm really happy 3D All-Stars came out, as it's really nice for getting footage and playing these games again. It's pretty sad this won't last forever and will go away after March though. But something that will last forever is my love for Dry Bones for Smash. Anywho, links to my Twitter and Discord server are in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.